Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we heard about what Mr. Trump did yesterday evening. Anyhow, May was the coldest month or the coldest May in 50 years. So perhaps we need a little bit carbon. No, just joking. Anyhow, Tina Kähö said what is needed to drive innovation forward. You need partners, you need companies, you need cooperation. There was a question from Barcelona that can we share experiences? Yes, we can and we should. Actually, I have hosted a meeting for the International Energy Agency and their activity on advanced fuels here in Helsinki from Monday to Thursday. We had the meetings in Kamppi, which is a public transport hub. We had the HSL was kind enough to provide the guests with the public transport tickets and so forth. We also gave a show with our industrial players where Finland is standing for biofuels today. And just to be neutral and sure that the picture is full, we took them also for rides on electric buses. Anyhow, I was asked to speak about carbon-free public transport. I will focus on buses for obvious reasons. So when you think about the total emissions of CO2, it depends on the transport work, it depends on the specific energy consumption, and it depends on the carbon intensity of the energy that you use. I think public authorities and PTAs and so forth are very important in thinking about the whole system, starting from land use planning and so forth. And as public transport authorities, you should of course encourage people to switch from private cars to public transport and to mass and so forth. Then the third element, we have a couple of alternatives to introduce renewable energy in transport. Liquid and gaseous biofuels, renewable electricity, in the future perhaps renewable hydrogen, and then electrofuels, which are produced from surplus electricity. Anyhow, speaking about environmental friendliness, there are a couple of dimensions to it. You have to think about local emissions, mainly NOx emissions and PM emissions, but also in the built environment, noise. I think Christina will make a comment on that one. So then you always should conserve energy. Whether it's fossil or renewable, it's valuable. It shouldn't be spent in vain. And of course, you have the greenhouse gas emissions. So you have a local dimension, and you have a global dimension. And independent of Mr. Trump, we should also take care of the global one. But on the bottom, you should have a fluent and intelligent transport system which provides you service and safety. So buses, whether they are electric or biofuels, fueled, if they just stand in a queue and do not move, it's not a good thing. And don't fill out the public transport lanes with private electric passenger vehicles. So the obvious choice for carbon-free public transport is, of course, electrified rail. These are all examples here from Helsinki. So commuter trains, trams, the metro, and all served by renewable electricity you can buy with certificates. So, however, in many public transport systems are still very dependent on buses. So you have to think about what to do about the buses. Good news is that buses are fleet operated, so you can have specialty fuels and so forth. It's doable, so to say. Diesel buses, very reliable, very flexible, very long autonomy, typically more than 1,000 kilometers. You don't have to worry that much about operation or procurement. But especially in developing regions, the emissions from old diesel buses are terrible. we are now having a delegation from Chile here. We are trying to help Santiago de Chile to improve their bus system. And we have had the Vice Minister for Transport from Chile here visiting also HSL in the beginning of the week. So electric buses, and I would like to state that electric buses, it's not a vehicle technology issue, it's a systemic issue. You have to think about route planning, how to recharge your buses and so forth. And you very much have to look at it from above. And I would say in the initial phase, it's a huge challenge both for the tendering process of the PTAs and certainly also for the operators. Who will build the infrastructure? Who will take care of the infrastructure, provide the charging services and so forth? What about environmental performance? Here in the Nordic countries, we can definitely say that electric buses are good for both the local environment and the climate, because we have low carbon electricity. The situation in China might be somewhat different. Anyhow, so those who are in favor of electric buses naturally say that all buses will of course run on renewable electricity. Those who are opposing e-mobility say that, okay, you have always, when you increase load, you go for marginal electricity, and if somebody starts up a coal power plant. Anyhow, looking at new technology or operations in general, so the fleet operator, he is asking the question, which technology will give me the best profit? The PTA has to add a couple of dimensions. So which technologies provide low local emissions and low carbon emissions? But also from the PTA's point of view, it cannot come at any cost, because as in Helsinki and region, I understand that 50% of the revenue comes from the municipalities. So there is not that much money, so you should always think about cost effectiveness. So I'm happy to say that VTT and Helsinki Region Transport, we have cooperated on clean vehicles for more than 15 years. And together we have built up one of the best databases on bus performance in Europe. And we are working together in evaluating new technology, but we are also in a continuous process of improving the tendering system for bus services to take into account environmental performance. So over the years, we have had tests of many new technologies. Those technologies which are now moving forward with good pace are advanced biofuels and electrification of the bus system. So good news. Over the years, the emission performance of diesel buses and also of gas buses have improved significantly. So going from Euro 1 to Euro 6, the situation is very, very positive. And in the case of Euro 6 buses, we don't have any Volkswagen gate. So they really perform well, because the Euro 6 requirement for heavy-duty vehicles contain a requirement that you have to perform however the vehicle is tested, independent of how it's tested. So you get real-life low emissions. And you can see it visually, going from Euro 2 to Euro 6. The exhaust from current new Euro 6 buses is very clean. And I understand that roughly 40% of the vehicle kilometers procured by Helsinki Region Transport is already Euro 6. So the share of Euro 6 is high. I understood that you had discussed the European directive for promoting clean and efficient vehicles. And Helsinki Region Transport is using that as an element in the procurement system, but mainly for PM and NOx where it makes sense. The whole directive as such is a little bit stupid and it's up for revision. But look at environmental or calculated external cost. For a Euro 1 bus, more than 20 euro cents per kilometer. And now at the Euro 6 level, you are at 0.005 euros per kilometer. Just to make a joke, I included electricity. So electricity and Euro 6 really doesn't differ that much anymore. You can do something by switching fuel also. The best renewable diesel fuels, they reduce also local emissions. But the most important thing is, of course, to reduce the carbon emissions over the full fuel cycle. So this just illustrates that going from Euro 3 to Euro 6, you drop your emissions by more than 90%. And at the Euro 6 level, actually the impact of the fuel on NOx and PM, you can't see it anymore. But you need high quality fuel to sustain the very low emission performance. And you need renewable fuels to reduce your carbon dioxide emissions. So Helsinki Region Transport has a fleet strategy, something like 1/3 of electric buses in the year 2025, and by 2020, 100% of renewable fuels for the rest of the bus fleet. So Tiina mentioned activities on biofuels. We have a biofuels mandate in Finland, and it requires all the distributors to provide biofuels on the market. Now we have a smart agreement between all the parties that we will fill out the quota of the public transport first. And the idea here is that comes with no additional cost for the PTA. So the cost is divided upon all fuels in Finland. But the Helsinki region public transport takes the advantage. I believe electrification will make progress. This says we are constructing an electric bus charging station. This is outside the national theater and main railway station. For you in the municipalities and PTAs, be in good contact with your architects, because they will have something to say about building a charging pole in a very historic site. So Helsinki Region Transport normally do not operate buses, nor do they own buses. But for electric buses, I think Helsinki Region Transport made a very smart move. They bought 12 electric buses, which will be handed out to operators to teach them what is electric buses. So we have a pre-commercial demo. We call it e-peli, the e-play. So the idea is here to build up the ecosystem which is needed when you go for full-scale commercial implementation and procurement of e-bus services. So together with Helsinki Region Transport, I think we have created one of the best knowledge base for what is the performance of buses. If you want to go for low local emissions, you have to go for new buses like Euro 6 or think about retrofit or electrification. And if you really want to have real low greenhouse gas emissions, you should go for renewable energy, whether it's the best of biofuels or electricity. Euro 6 and the best renewable fuels are a good combination, both for local environment and for climate. But then in the long run, I think that the advice would be that electrify when it's possible. So there are some challenges in putting up an e-bus system. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nils-Olof Nylund. Most interesting presentation. Do you see that the challenges are political or technological or related to architecture?
I think that there were some severe architectural challenges here, but they are solved. There still are some technological issues in the sense that for example, the fast charging systems for buses are not fully standardized and so forth. One of the advantages here in Finland that we have, being a small country, we can actually have all the people who make decisions and who are important to drive things around the same table. That is one strength that we really have. And I can tell you that the IEA guests coming from close to 20 countries around the world, they were very impressed to see how we work here in Finland, how we work together, academia, the ministries, municipalities and the enterprises together to drive things.
Thank you. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, Ruud has one. Please speak to the mic and then we will have.
Thank you for your great presentation. Very interesting. I learned a lot again. You talked about the IEA, but you also talked about the Clean Vehicle Directive. You showed it on the sheet. You mentioned that you think the original version of this CDV is rubbish. You use the word, and it should be reviewed. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Actually, the Commission has launched the review process of the directive, and together with Helsinki Region Transport, we responded to that. I think it's a great thing that you have a methodology to externalize cost for emissions, but then the directive doesn't, the current directive doesn't in any way cater for the use of renewable energy, and it's looking at tailpipe CO2 emissions only, which is quite stupid.
You would prefer that I would look at the well-to-wheel?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. That's one of the few, or are there more deficits on this review?
And then the calculation method, in my opinion, it overestimates the energy cost, and you are using one single cost for energy unit independent of what fuel you are actually using. And if both those who are running the vehicles and the PTA would use this directive fully out, you would take energy costs twice into the calculation. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Now it's time for our break, so let us enjoy the nice weather and go to the balcony, have coffee and tea and some refreshments. Thank you very much.